Welcome to Saturday Matters. Be sure you have these things. A very well organized array here of equipment display and information. So please give your attention to these neighbors of ours, and Nancy is the one who kind of got this all set up. And
I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Okay. The disclaimer is that I got obsessed with this project. And during the summer, the task to the floor captains was to prepare their own kit of what they wanted to do, what every resident should do. And we did not meet over the summer for any meetings, so that was their homework for the summer. Some of them did some of them didn't do some, but I went overboard. And I had that as my disclaimer. My neighbors even called me verbose. So I knew that I was over-talking it, and I anticipate that I will over-talk it today. So be patient, but tell me. I never had much heard of the word verbose until we got into Monday trivia, which was not there. The people I want to acknowledge for this is the PowerPoint man himself, is Don Dunbar, who is the husband for Prue, who is a floor captain on the second floor. I call him a co-captain because he really did help to put this together. The other person, if you get to your cubbies, you will find a brand new protocol. This is a handout. This is a new development because of the new people that are doing this. It took us a year to get there. And the person I want to acknowledge for this one is Charlotte at the front desk. It did so much time in the development of the beauty of this, and I'm very proud to say it's something that the floor captains did this year. So it's a really good thing. And now I need to look at my notes. The floor captains, as you can see, the title of this is Common Sense 101. And all of us, when I say we, I may represent the floor captains, but I'm only doing it because nobody else wanted to do it. And I believe that. So the floor captains do acknowledge that you know this content. There is it's common sense. Everybody knows this content. So the really thing to look at is what is the goal of what we are doing here. The ultimate goal, of course, is no chaos in these uncertain times of a disaster. And how are you going to achieve that? I hope that what we have put together will help you with that, but ultimately making decisions with confidence and without fear. Because you are independent, this is your ball game, it isn't ours. We will help as best we can, but you are independent. So, and the people, the next part of this is, as I said, this is presented to you by all of the floor captains. So I say we, that means everyone collectively. So I'd like to get a show of hands. How many of you have been in earthquakes? Okay. And how many of you have been in Seattle earthquakes? And of the Seattle people, were they damaging earthquakes? Okay. Somewhat. And to the extent of money damage or in life damage? Anybody experience that? Yeah.
I think it's about 1949, there was a quake,
That was a big
and a cornice fell off a building and killed a woman. That was the only
That was a
casualty.
big- And were you close to that?
No, I was on campus.
Okay, interesting. But the people that I want to introduce to you are sitting here at the table, and they have experienced it. And let's see if I push the right button this time. Oh, let's talk about the agenda first. The agenda of what we will be doing is number one on the list. Hear from about their earthquake experiences, and that is from Irene and Nancy. And they have a slide coming up next. So this is our agenda of what we're doing today. we will review the protocols, and if you get to your copy, and it was distributed by that, because everyone should get this handout, and it is in your cubby. We'll talk about the protocols, and we will go line by line with the protocols, and we will go a little bit into equipment, and all of the floor captains were here to show their summer work, and they will display what they came up with. There's some interesting things. So we're going to do protocols. Oh, wrong way. And equipment. And then an early explanation, I'll talk about the shakeout that's coming in October. And then you will get to meet your floor captains, and you'll see there are tables with numbers on them and names on them. Get to know your people. There's someone, not everyone is here today, but pretty much you're going to see all your floor captains. Okay, the next one. And here's where I will introduce to you. This is, Irene is going to start first. But we have Nancy and Irene, and they lived through the earthquakes. First is Irene, on my far right. And her earthquake, as you can read, was in California in 1989 at the World Series one. And she will describe how she was driving in California. Her husband was in the house when it hit, and her son was in the parking lot of the stadium where it happened. And the pictures that you see are personal pictures of her front door, and you can see how significantly cracked it is. Ironically, the window above that crack did not break, so I think it's interesting. Your turn, Irene. Okay, you want the hand one?
Can you increase the volume on that?
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
Is it? Can you? It's still closer. Okay.
Should I use this one?
You want that one or you want this one?
I'd rather.
Yeah, we might want to just hold it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Closer.
Just closer.
Okay, you can hear me? Oh yeah, I can hear myself. Okay, I was teaching in San Francisco at the time, and I was driving home, and I thought I had a flat tire. So it was just around 5 o'clock. I thought I had a flat tire, and everything looked strange. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was going to park and stop and get groceries for dinner, and so I thought, no, I'm just going to go home. It was like the lights were out. I just had a funny feeling about it. So I drove home, and there were cracks in front of my house. So I went upstairs, and my husband had felt the brunt of the earthquake. He heard the cracks, and he thought that the house was going to fall down. That's what it felt like to him. And then my son and his cousin were, they were going to school over in Berkeley, and their job was to park cars in a Candlestick Park where the World Series was going on. And so my son said, all the cars were parked, the World Series was about to start. And he said that he looked out, and the ground was kind of moving up and down, and he thought he was sick. He said, I don't feel good at all. It's just waving. So anyway, I guess the people did exit Candlestick Park without a problem, which is absolutely amazing when they knew that this was an earthquake. But anyway, that was, it took a while to realize what it was. And then, of course, then FEMA came, and at the time, there weren't too many catastrophes in the country. So FEMA was a great deal of help. They were amazing. But just the feeling of the earthquake, when you went to bed, you were unsure how many aftershocks there were gonna be. And then you felt, maybe it's not an aftershock, maybe there's gonna be another one. So you were just kind of on edge the whole time. And then it took a long time to get the house repaired. There was a shortage of contractors. I mean, the house was a mess. Everything fell off the shelves, books, etc. And anyway, it was very frightening. That's all I can say.
So I have a question for you. That experience, and that was in 1989, has that shaded you? Do you think about the future in terms of earthquakes? When you enter a building, do you look for the first exit? Do you know those kind of things?
No. I imagine there will not be an earthquake. I hope there's not going to be an earthquake, but I don't really look for exits, which probably is not wise. I think we should all look for exits. The whole thing was very frightening. And the thing is just to find some place to be able to stand or get under.
And Irene has shared with me where she will get under her table. Her table is very secure. She has, even though she's denying, she doesn't think about it, her apartment is already set up for her table of where she's going to go.
It was a great place. Well, when I was teaching, we did duck and cover often. So the kids got under their desk and hunched over and covered their head. And that was important. So they were used to that, and I think they still do that in San Francisco.
Louder, please.
Okay. Okay, and I think, I know my son was trying to get home after the earthquake. They couldn't get home because part of the bridge had fallen down. So they came to our house, stayed overnight, then the next day they had to go around because part of the bridge had collapsed. And the Marina district, which is built on sand, there's a great deal of damage there. The podiatrist that comes here, I talked to him, he said he lived in Marina and he lost everything there. So it was a very frightening experience. Yeah, have any questions?
Next.
I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes because the March 27th earthquake in Alaska was 9.2 and it lasted 5 minutes. So while I'm talking, we'll see.
I would like to highlight on the slide above you can see that this was the most powerful in North America, and it is the second most powerful in the world. So it's way up there, guys. And to see the number 9, you know it's something heavy is coming.
Never mind, I can't set timers.
Oh.
I'll just talk. Okay. I grew up in California, so I had been in an earthquake before, and I was a student in California, and we ducked and covered and looked for doorways because that's what we were told. So on March 27th, I was 8.5 months pregnant. I had a 2-year-old, and I was making a lemon meringue pie with a graham cracker crust. Well, the crust was made, the meringue was whipped, and I was stirring the yellow pudding when the quake started. It started with a small jolt. I knew what it was, turned off the stove, grabbed my son, and headed for the only door in our little A-frame, which was into the bathroom. The quake intensified greatly. Sharp, sharp jolts. Things started falling. I could hear dishes. We had cabinets in the kitchen that were open because we were building this house ourselves and we didn't have real cabinets yet with doors on them. On the second floor of the A-frame, we had a printing press, a small hand printing press. I heard it hit the floor. We had, on the little attic part of the A-frame, we had our stash of homebrew that we had recently made in bottles. And I could hear the bottles sliding, rolling, and eventually falling down the stairs. Of course, they broke. So there was this rain of broken glass and beer coming down the open stairwell right next to the bathroom door. I hung on to Sven as tight as I could while also hanging onto the door jamb. The water was splashing out of the toilet, shaking that much. I was convinced that the A-frame, which was only 16 feet wide and 27 feet tall, as we built an isosceles A-frame, was going to tip over onto the roof side.
And it was made of wood?
It was all wood. The shaking was quite intense, jarring. As the quake gradually wound down, it became more gradual in terms of I felt like I was on a ship at sea and going like this, which was riding the earth waves. An earthquake is very much like a wave at sea. And as the waves pass by, then different things are happening to the ground. The major damage in an earthquake, or that earthquake, had to do with ground failure, subsidence. There was a section of town that just totally dropped about 60, 70 feet because the dirt underneath it liquefied in that 5 minutes and flowed out into the inlet. And when you don't have any dirt under you, you fall. The cracks around town were definitely noticeable wherever there'd been an old creek bed or fill. Those areas settled, so those dropped, and so the major destruction had to do with ground failure. Most of Anchorage in those days was wood frame, and so wood frame held up pretty well, but anywhere where there was concrete, chimneys, basements had cracks. Once the quake stopped, the neighbor outside called, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And once we determined it was safe for me to get out the back door, which was blocked by some beams, the new construction, we all went to their house that night. There were 11 of us, and the stories were pretty amazing. One couple had a 16-hour-old baby at the hospital, and the hospital announced, anybody who has a place to go, please leave. We're expecting a lot of casualties. So they took the baby, came home. We went to the neighbors, put the baby in a drawer with towels, and that couple slept in the bedroom that night. The rest of us had sleeping bags, and we just perched around wherever we could find. One couple, I thought the woman was out of her head. She kept saying, "My house broke, my house broke," and they came with ladders. They came with ladders to get me out.
That was 5.5 minutes since you started.
Okay.
All right? So the earthquake just stopped. That tells you how long it was. The lady, it turned out, was very bright. She was in the section of Turnagain that dropped. And they did come with ladders to help rescue the people that were in that area. We thought she was crazy. There was no radio. There was no electricity. We had no idea what was happening or what had happened to anyone else. Another couple was in the Penny's building. The corner of the Penny's building failed and dropped. The husband grabbed his wife's hand and said, "I'm going to watch. And when I think it's safe, we're going to run." And they did. They ran out through an opening and made it safely. But they told a terrible story of someone who was crushed by the falling concrete in the car out in front of the Penny's building. There was amazingly few people died. Most of them were from the tsunami that followed. The tsunami wiped out a couple of native villages. There was a 7-foot change in the land. So part of it raised 7 feet or dropped 7 feet. And so consequently, harbors that you used to be able to get in and out of, you couldn't. And other areas, the water came in at high tide. It came in over the road, came in over the railroad. So I have a few pictures up here which are of the bigger picture, not of our home. I don't have pictures of that. I didn't take pictures.
The pictures that you see on the screen were taken from the internet, but it shows you the amount of locomotion just in the ground, the turnover of the tree there as well. So, question for you: now that you've been through this, and probably the worst that any of us have ever experienced, how has it impacted your life?
Any vibration. You're likely to see me to stand up, jump, and run. It doesn't take much. The sensitivity to motion is still there. It's the first time I knew I could die. And I think I am still more wary of, like, things on the walls, things that could fall, being very aware of, don't put a heavy picture over your bed, things like that. Because we had subsequent quakes. There was one there was a subsequent quake, and there's some pictures somewhere of some of the damage.
You did share a picture that you'll see in a not too long here. It's a later one in 2018, and it was a 7.1, which is nothing to joke about. She lived through the 9. But tell me about just the other day, you were parking the car in P1. Tell me that story.
Okay. Since we've been talking about earthquakes recently and reviewing my memories, I looked around the garage when I pulled in and I said, if an earthquake happened right now, where can I go? How safe are the garages? Do you stand next to a post? Do you go between cars? And I think I finally decided to get in the back seat and curl up. Because even if something fell on the car, with the seats and so on, you're likely to have some kind of airspace in there. They might not find you for a while, but at least you'd still be there. My concern was being next to a car if the car is moving, because in a big shake, the cars will also get moved around. So I was concerned about being between two cars because you might get squished. So anyway, that was my decision.
And really, I couldn't answer their question. What do you do when you're in a garage situation like that? And when we get into the protocol, I'm going to take a sidebar and talk about safe places. And for her example, I said, you're going to have to ask Jared about that one. Most of the damage that is done in an earthquake is not so much from the building falling on people. It can fall apart and give you little pieces, and everything will come down, but it is the slab of a concrete piece when it falls on you that'll get you. And so this is always debatable about what we're going to do for safe places. Jared is here and he can answer the question later. The last one that, just quickly, this is Seattle in 2001, the squally. This was a 6.8. It lasted 40 seconds. And Amelia and I have talked about what is the most damaging of all the earthquakes that we have gone through, and she insists it's 1949, and that was a 7.1. So the magnitude was high, and she was a teacher in Seattle at the time. Amelia is one of the floor captains from the 5th floor, and you will meet her soon. Lots of damage but in terms of comparing 1949, it was a 7.1, and the squally was a 6.8. The amount of damage was greater for the Nisqually, and that's the one that we are always talking about the most. Okay, now if you have your handout with you, we're going to go through the protocols, write down and what to do and not do. You're not getting it? You don't have your paper? It's in the cubby, and the reason we distribute that, but I will go through them one by one by one. Okay. The first one is take control of your balance. In other words, don't run from your apartment. Don't, if you're in your bed, stay there, and we'll do a sidebar again on this one because this is a new protocol that was developed by us being the floor captains, and approved by, went through AI for correctness and approved by Phyllis. So what I'm presenting to you isn't just our opinions, this is what they do. And if you're in a wheelchair, lock its brakes. And sit down, whatever you do, get down on your hands and knees. If you've ever seen a dog in its balance when it's on a surfboard, you can see 2 hands and 2 feet is better balanced than just 2 as an adult. I'll get to a safe place. Hold on until the shaking stops. The thing that I want to talk about are safe places. And this is controversial. What is a safe place? When I showed the first draft of this protocol to Pat Walker, she said, well, this is different than what we used to say. If you're in bed, you were told to get out of bed and get to the floor next to your bed. And I will, in just a minute, discuss further about that. But think about it. It's 2 in the morning. And are you going to know what to do when you feel the shake coming? So the really bottom line here is to make a decision that's best for you. I think when you get something like a repetitive thing that you get in your head, this is what to do, you will do it quicker. As Steve Malone said, do it quickly because you only have seconds before everything will change again. Safe places are obviously away from potential falling objects. As Nancy said, nothing over your head of your table of your bed, away from outdoor windows, outside, away from buildings, power poles, trees, and so forth. So let's talk. What? I'm sorry. I'm not getting why you're laughing. Okay. Anybody want to raise a comment about that? Or? So, yeah.
Well, we're laughing because we live in a city and we can't get away from buildings.
Okay. And so, I'm talking with another one of our captains, and that is Alice, over there from the 1st floor. When I showed this protocol to her, the draft to it, she said, what would you do if you're downtown and you really are building to building to building? And you'll see in a minute where one seismologist says to go and stand close to the building. And don't do that. Really, as it says here, you gotta get away from falling objects. And the conclusion that Alice and I drew, or I did, I guess, she didn't know, I really didn't know, is at the middle of the street. And really, if you gotta watch for the traffic, you gotta watch for the traffic. But everybody is experiencing it. Yeah, Joe?
We were always told to avoid the street because it will break up.
That's a possibility. I mean, it depends on how severe the earthquake is. But you have really no place to go. Al?
A lot of the modern buildings have a huge amount of glass, and apparently falling glass is a terrible risk.
It is. Most of, as Steve said the other day, if you went to his lecture, it's injury from falling objects, and it's usually going glass or an object of some magnitude. Should I be taking this microphone out to other people? Do you want me to do that?
No.
No, you're doing okay?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about finding safe places. And what I want to do here is read to you from a man that put together a theory. He was a seismologist, well, not exactly. He was a rescue worker, and what he saw from all of his rescues made him think, why are you getting under something that when something like a slab of concrete falls on it will go down and kill the person underneath it, i.e. children at school who get under their desk. If you get a slab of concrete and it falls on you, yes, that child may be smushed. And he drew the conclusion and called it the triangle of life. Has anybody ever heard of this one before? I had not heard of it, but it really was one of the ways that when we were presented with get out of your bed and go next to it. And his concept is, his name was Doug Coop. He is a disaster manager. He worked with the UN. One of his observations, and that's mainly his research, was in 1985, an earthquake in Mexico City. And exactly, every child was crushed to the thinness of their bones. And he really thought that those desks, why were they under the desk when they should have been in the aisle? And his concept was to have something that's big next to you, and when something falls, it hits that big object and leaves what he is calling a triangle of life. My best example of this one, and this is a really hard concept, I do have to say, to understand, would be if you were at Symphony Hall at a concert, and you were on the balcony, and you're in your seat, and the people just below you were in their seat. That alley, that walkway between, would be a best example of security. So if you got out of your seat and got into that, aisle that you were at, anything that fell would fall in between onto the heavy things and leave you alone in the middle of it. The reality, though, is if you can think that fast and you know what's happening as you're sitting there in a concert, would you do that? I don't know. The other part of that would be just bend over and protect yourself, protect your head, use your arm and your hand, and hold on. That essentially is. The thing I liked about his theory, however, he made an observation about cats and dogs and babies. Of course, I love that. Often they naturally curl up in the fetal position. You should do it too in an earthquake for the survival instinct that they curl up like that. So the reason we chose to stay with being in bed is find a position in the bed. If you can turn over and have the back up instead of the front up, okay, do it. If you can't, get in the fetal position and to cover your head. And if you have a dog, get the dog in there with you, because you do have a dependent here in your household. And this animal, cat, dog, whatever, is going to need help. If you're taking care of yourself, you should take care of your pet as well. So if you have a small dog and you're comfortable with it, or if the dog sleeps in bed with you already, then you're going to become a cocoon and cover yourself. And then use the pillows on top of that as well. But this man, he went on to Turkey, and he did more research there, and talked more and more about it. The people of Istanbul did not accept his concept. And this is debatable. This one has come out as some recommendations of what to do, but in the United States, FEMA and all of the standard people that deal with disasters have not gone that way. It's difficult to explain to people that you want to be close to something that can protect you if something is falling on you. But if you were able to secure the bookshelf when the earthquake happens, you wouldn't necessarily have to get down on the ground next to your bed. You have some questions about that at all? So debatably, there's no right answer. There's really no right answer about what is a safe place. Say it again.
You're doomed.
You're doomed. Yeah, I think you could say that. It's pretty scary out there. His theory also was to, when you're in a building, get as close as you can to an exit door, and which of course is a wall that's to the outside wall. Most of what our protocol talks about is go to the inside wall for more coverage. And you'll see that in the United States also. That is what we do instead of going out. Because, well, Al, the example that you gave was architecture that fell on someone as they were coming, or out on the street. Go ahead, Al.
Well, back to getting into the aisle, if you're at a big concert hall, even if you're able-bodied, how many people can get quickly into the aisle?
Exactly. And so,
Not that many.
not that many. So finding safe places, and again, you're doomed. So take control of your balance. Don't run from your apartment. If you're in bed, stay there. I'm repeating myself.
Linda, Liz had a comment.
Nancy, I have a question.
Sure.
While sleeping in my bed when an earthquake hits, it would seem to me that I'd be safer on the floor next to my bed, because in the bedroom there's the window, and overhead there's the overhead fan.
Yeah.
So it seems to me to be safer to be on the floor, close to the bed, with the height of the bed protecting me.
This is a perfect example of make up your own mind.
Thank
Really, the goal of what we're about is that this is your decision to make. So we are not saying, do this. This is what you need to do. This is you, and you need to make up your own mind of what you're going to do. You won't see it in the protocol. You don't. Yeah, I don't really have an answer. It could work. If it works for you, then go for it.
A few years ago when I moved in, University House came and secured my huge bookcase in my bedroom. And maybe other people here remember that. You could ask them to do it.
And Jared, one of the reasons I asked Jared to be here today was for that very reason. And we will have, or you can get, request slips for service to do that very thing. I'm going to go back to a long time ago, the role of the floor captain. In the beginning, as I have heard, I wasn't here, a floor captain would go to the resident's home and enter the home, and they would talk about their environment, the whole environment, and what was good, what was not good, how to prepare for an earthquake. It was a one-on-one kind of situation that was the beginning of those, right, Pat? Okay. And the new role of the floor captains, that is not part of our role. We will not be doing one-on-one teaching. If you like that, give me a call. I'll be glad to come and help you look at your environment and give you suggestions of let's secure that, or let's move this picture away from there, or things like that. We would be glad to do that. Instead, we are turning to something that is more universal, like we're doing today, for teaching to everyone all at once. So everyone gets the same message at the same time. Just as Liz is in her dilemma where to go, I may say stay in your bed and curl up in a fetal position, because that's what they tell us to say. But you're going to do what you want to do and make up your own mind of how to do it. Any other questions? All right, let's get on our way. Finding safe places, I just talked about it. When it's safe, you're going to move with caution. There's probably glass all around you. To the front door, unlock your door so that we, the floor captains or anyone, can help you. Hang a placard, and these are placards. You may have been around during the time that Seattle, thank you, that Seattle came and did a presentation, so your placard may be yellow, or Phyllis has also made placards. So the idea behind the placard is to tell us where you're at. A floor captain will make rounds and knock on your door and ask, of course, are you okay? Tell us. We don't enter your room. We're just here to help. And more placards when we get ready for the shakeout in October. There will be more placards and there will be more whistles. Hang your placard on the door now. Use your alert button or whistle or voice. It's good to okay yell. Protect your vital organs as obviously getting into a fetal position. Crawl under is something that's stable for shelter. Alice also once asked, where are you going to find shelter? And again, this is your opportunity to do an earthquake preparedness, to look around, where am I going to go? If possible, bend over to protect your abdomen, like if you're sitting in your walker. If no shelter, crawl inside into an interior wall, interior, not exterior. Now, a part of our protocol also says, don't go outside, stay where you are. You are probably in the safest spot to be. Do not call 911. Don't call the front desk. You will find all this in your handouts, it's in your cubby. And the staff will provide help and information as soon as possible. But most of all, be aware of aftershocks. Okay, I think you want, but you could certainly do that. I want to take you back to Alaska. This is Nancy's pictures of Alaska. And I just love these. These are personal pictures. This did not come from the internet. So it was a magnitude of 7.1. And on the left side, you can see the pictures. Look at what the pictures have done. You can tell this was a 7.1. Things shake, shake, shake. If the pictures are as crooked as they are. Nancy did say some of the pictures fell, but these obviously were hung the right way. Shall I say that? And on the right-hand side, her cabinets are fine. But look at what happened when she opened the cupboard door. Everything within the shelves of that cupboard fell out and made a mess. So what we were doing, sorry, yeah, Eric.
I wasn't in Anchorage then, so it wasn't Eric. Nancy.
Oh, sorry.
That's 2018.
So by now, by 2018,
Home then, we weren't married.
by 2018, Nancy's children were young adults or mature adults by then, and have moved on. And this is a condo that they had. Amazing, just the pictures themselves. So the things that we have chosen to help with this decision-making process of what you're going to do is because of the shakeout. This is a shakeout. What first came in 2008 and in Southern California. California has they have shallower Is that fair to say, Irene? Shallower? I think Steve did talk about that. They are shallower there rather than in Washington. It began in 2008, and that first year they got 5.3 people involved. This has gone nationwide, this has gone internationally, and that's why we're going to be part of it. Washington, Seattle will be also part of this shakeout, and you will see that. It's my hope that we can continue to do this year after year. You're going to get pretty bored. I mean, we're not going to do this every year because we know you know what you're talking about. But the idea is to take the time to really think about what you're doing. Okay, now let's talk.
Question?
Yeah?
Do you know what time of day that shakeout is?
Yes, it will be. In the state, it is usually 10/16 on the 16th of October. So you can see that little thing. We chose, Emma J and I chose 10/16 is too silly. The earthquake will begin at 10 in the morning. I could give you some details of it, but there will be more. At 10 in the morning, a leader on your floor will go up and down the corridors with a whistle and announce this is the earthquake. And so you will have 10 minutes, which is much longer than any earthquake I've read about at all. And so it's not intentional, perhaps, that you get down on the floor and really do it. The idea here is to be, I'll pick up a phrase that's so popular, mindful. Be mindful of what an earthquake would feel like, and to think about, okay, if I'm going to stand here and look around, where would I go? So pick your spot, Liz, pick your spot during that time. And your spot is not mine. So you won't find a protocol that says you must do this. And then at the 10-minute line, the captain will then walk the halls and blow the whistle to say the earthquake is over. Now your floor captain during a real earthquake will take care of themselves first, which you would expect them to do, and then after it's settled down, they will begin to make their rounds. And so each of the floor captains on their floor has designated, I'll cover this corridor, you take that one, you take this one, so we will make rounds. We will knock on your door, we will find your placard, whatever, to be there. So rather than take the time, and then really, at the end, what we really want, this is a hypothetical, academic exercise. It's pretend, let's play, and that's literally what we hope, is that it shakes your mind to think about. And people, if you do nothing else during this whole thing, check your batteries. That's really what I would say. If you haven't seen a battery that's deteriorating and is crystallized and is not useful and is spoiling everything in the box, look and see where your batteries are at. But so power is the biggie. The other thing that you will see on the back of your handout is also other supplies that will be good to have, obviously. And what we're talking about is, and what our disaster book talks about, is 72 hours of self-reliance. And that is the expectation. So we will soon go through a power outage in the whole area of Wallingford, that you will feel what it's like to have no electricity. So take that into mind as you think about, what am I going to do? My example of the summer of what I did, I asked the floor captains to do their thing. What I did is I watched myself for 24 hours, and what was I doing? Right? I have hearing aids, I'm going to need a charger. The charger that comes with the hearing aid are good for 3 charges, so okay, 72 hours, I can do it. But what do I do then? Okay. The other thing in my day of life, TV. Well, I can live without TV. I don't need TV, but I need a radio. I need a radio to know what the outside world is doing besides myself. And then I also need coffee. So that's a biggie for me. And so I thought about how am I going to make coffee? You got to have, for me, it's a grinder. I grind my own coffee. So I need a grinder. I need to make hot water. So there are things that you do every day that you're going to be missing for, we're saying 72 hours, and maybe much longer than that. So what did I invest in? I invested in a power source. And that power source is bigger than the other power sources. So it is a lithium battery, and it's a biggie. And I even went to Jared to say all the stuff I've seen about lithium batteries, that they can explode and make a fire, right? And you've seen it. And he said, not in that one, that's a biggie. So it's a what would I call it? A car battery. And it was pricey, and I did invest in it. So I have to apologize that I do those things that are rather extreme, perhaps. And lastly, and also a biggie, is water. So let's talk water. And the thing that I asked Doug to come to talk about is the difference between the straws, you know about the filter straws? The supplies, this started last year when Phyllis bought a supply of them from Amazon, and you could come and get them anytime. We're down to 3. So people are interested in this, and I'm not. And I'm very open to say that. I would go to a water jug. I have 5. I have 5 already. But Amelia, what happened to your water jug? Her water jug sprung a leak, and this has happened. It's just one of the things that can happen. But I asked Doug to talk, because he advocates for this, and I don't. So we're going to do a little debate here. Where's the other microphone? Yeah. So I'm for a jug, and he's for the, he is for the filter.
So how much water do we need to have?
Good one. And the answer for that is, do you know? The answer, Carol.
I want to ask you, when you talk about a jug, what sort of a jug are you talking about?
Oh, what you can buy from the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's a big gallon.
Just a bottle of water.
That's right. It could be small ones, it could be big ones. But how much do you need? And the answer is? Oh my goodness, okay. 3. For 3 days.
What?
3 gallons.
A day.
Okay, can you use the water that's stored in the utility rooms?
No. Those are, and at one time people thought that they could tap into those big jugs that are there in your trash room. And no, that is really set aside by the Department of Health for the assisted living, and that is required by the laws that they have. So we will not be tapping into that water.
How many people can lift a 5-gallon jug of water?
Only those that work here, I think.
Well, you know, one of the advantages of something like this straw, which you just take the
Use the mic, please.
the clip off on each end and stick it into water that maybe isn't so pretty.
Well, I'm not going to put my head into a tank of water.
Well, you know, in your apartment, you ought to be able to find some water. Where could you find the water in your apartment?
And would you really put your head into that tank? I don't know about it. I said no to it. That was my opinion. And like the inside of a tank is really pretty scummy looking and kind of.
Yeah, but that's what this filter takes out.
Yes, I agree. I did read that. And I did go to what the feds say are the regulations, and this guy really does do that.
I've used these hiking, and some water that, looks pretty green comes through these things and didn't kill me.
And I agree, it would would not do that, but can you get 3 gallons out of a tank in your?
Well, the tank probably holds at least 2.
No, it holds 1.6. No, well, no, it's not my tank, it's the house's tank, not mine.
There is enough to get you by till you can worry about it for a while.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that. What? Somebody said something. No? The toilet tank could break. I doubt if it will. It might, in an earthquake. Porcelain could break.
You know, you can get by for several days without food, but not so much with water.
And when you think about water, it is not just drinking the water. You have no running water to wipe your hand, to rinse yourself at all. You can't take a shower, you can't wash your hands, unless you have a source of water. So water is really a biggie.
You might have some wet ones or other sanitary napkins that you could use to wipe your hands.
Yeah, you could go back to the pandemic. We can remember that, how to do that. Yeah.
What about ice cubes?
Ice cubes, as long as they last. Of course, you're not going to want to open and close your refrigerator if you have no electricity, because that's kind of dead too to the world. The more you break into it, the more.
But they're probably good for at least 24 hours, maybe even 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy, lots of people. John?
Do you recommend keeping 1, 2, 3 cases of water in a closet all the time as a safety?
Yes, and that his question is, does he recommend it in your closet? Yes, wherever you choose to keep it. I have 5 gallons already. They're outdated. They came from my house before I sold it. So they're really, really old. They've never been opened. But I've heard at least 2 stories of those kind of flimsy plastic that have failed. If it's in your closet where your clothes is, you're going to make a mess. So think about where you're going to store it. One of the people stored it in their bathtub. I haven't moved mine, are way up there in my closet. I haven't brought them down yet, but I'm going to put them in my shower so that they don't do that. Anybody else have a question?
Right behind you.
Okay, yeah.
They advise us not to use milk jugs.
Can you move your
And
foot
I
a
think the
little bit?
rationale
Your
is
foot,
that
that's it.
if there's any milk in there, it'll
My daughter's
contaminate the
coming.
water.
Correct.
I'm using water jugs. I've probably got 5 of them. And I really, really sterilize them before I fill them, and they're in a place that's not going to get squashed.
Jane has a question.
Well, my understanding is that the plastic in those plastic water jugs degrades over time, and you need to replace them. I think it's every 6 months.
Correct. That is the protocol. You have the perfect protocol, and that is exactly what they recommended. Do people do it? I didn't do it. I still have it. So the reality of life is, do we really do all of that kind of stuff? I don't know.
So if you're drinking water out of one of those degraded water bottles, use your straw.
And if you
By the way, we're running out of the supply that we had available here, but they are available from Amazon. They're $15 if you buy individually, or you can get 6 of them for $20.
Which is what Phyllis did. So there used to be quite a supply. We're down to 3. If you're interested in it, I'd like to see a show of hands from the floor captains. Do you have jugs and straws? How many do? We have both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people is pretty. Tells something. I'm not totally against it, but just be aware of how much energy goes into that. I'm not going to put my head in the toilet with a straw. First of all, the straw doesn't go to the bottom, so you need to get the water out of the tank and before you can filter it.
You know, you could siphon it. You could scoop it out with a cup.
Those of you that have purchased them already, they came in a box of 4, and there was 1 manual in there, 1 owner's manual. So if you need to have some instruction sheets, we have those available. I did make some Xerox copies of the manual, so you can have that. You don't have to have it. But Amazon does a great job with its owner manual that you can read right there. The last part of this, and we are running over, I think that's why Karen's standing here.
Oh, no.
The last, and because we're standing, at this point, we have all the floor captains here, and they have brought to you what they did for the summer. Particularly Doug has quite a captains full of it over there. So we're gonna, all the floor captains, if you have the time, to please go to your station, which has signs on it, which floor you're from. It has the names of everyone. The one person that is unable to be here was Evelyn, and she is definitely part of the team. And Jared will be here to talk about how to secure everything to have a safe environment. Carolyn.
Ask a question first. What is University House going, what is their protocol for what they'll provide?
I'm wondering what University House is going to be prepared to provide in the event of an earthquake. Are they preparing to provide any food?
Yes.
I don't have any idea what the situation is.
Odds and prayers.
The person that I think can answer this best probably is Jared, and he's more talkative than I am. So he may be able to give you some insight into that. I would also recommend to you, there is a disaster book at the front desk. And they predominantly when the electricity goes out, which we will all experience soon, you'll see what lights work and what lights don't. But you will also see the wellness center has outlets. Most of the power that will be in the house will be to wellness center and the kitchen. So that is your biggie of what they can provide. There will be food. They do have supplies of food that are in a cave somewhere downstairs. So things will be available. But ultimately there is a, what you got?
I've got a manual can opener.
Yay!
So your electric ones will not work.
If you look at your supply list, and you will be, I laughed when I saw it, that said 72 hours of self-reliance, and that's the expectation.
Going to happen when several people are injured. What is University House going to do, or what are the captains going to do to get people out safely or contact help?
That is the interface between the floor and the staff is the job of the floor captain. So the floor captain will survey, go on their rounds to assess who needs help, and then that information will go to the staff, and the staff will also be interacting in the city of Seattle. So it won't happen probably overnight. A question that came from someone, one of my neighbors, if the window in the patio collapses, will they come and fix the window? Yes, they will, but not right away. So they're there, they are there to help.
So does University House have adequate supplies of first aid?
No.
They have some, but you also should have simple Band-Aids, that kind of thing. If we can, the responsibility of the floor captains is to assess more than intervene. We're not there to intervene. It's the hardest thing of being a floor captain and a nurse. You want to intervene, but that is not the responsibility of our
We're told
position.
not to enter the room.
Nancy?
To knock and ask if you're okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I used to work in my previous life for the city of Bellevue, and as such I went through disaster preparedness, and I was supposed to go out on the road and check for the utility failures and things. I will say that depending on the time of day for the earthquake, you might not have a lot of helpers here to help you, especially in the kitchen, something like that. My suggestion for food was, because I needed to have something I could take with me, I bought a case of Boost and a big bag of hard candy. And the hard candy was to give to people to get them kind of boosted up, and the Boost was for me. And then I had 3 gallons of water under my desk, with the knowledge that if the helpers are at home, they're not going to be able to get in.
Yeah. As you probably already know, staffing at night is someone at the desk and someone in wellness. So that's where, and I do believe a recent conversation with Amy gave me an insight into how this role of a floor captain was evolved. We continue to evolve, and that was for the same reason that Peter asked, what are you doing? And I do think that went to Stacy, at the era of Stacy, to ask, what are you doing? And so they created, they being Stacy and the people in the resident, created this role. So we hope to make it evolve again to be something that's helpful to you. Anything else?
Who's Stacy?
Stacy is the Phyllis of probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Former executive director.
Anything else?
Have we heard
Yeah.
we heard from Jared?
Jared was here, and I'm sorry, he's still here, and he can take the mic anytime, and he's shaking his head over there, but the floor, we were running over, and it was intended that the floor captains would sit at their table and you could make rounds, and he would be at one of those tables where you could ask questions for him.
Let me just address a few things.
Please do.
I don't want to get in, because this really is, resident driven.
Use the microphone.
This is resident driven. This isn't, you house telling you what you need to do. We're here to support you in this process, but yourselves and the floor captains are the ones that really, need to drive today. So a few things. One, everyone who has ever survived any type of bomb blast, severe weather, building collapse, earthquake, they have done that because they were able to or ended up in a void space. So a void space is, earthquake happens, you're against this wall because this is the only place you can get. Ceiling may collapse, but you're going to have natural, basically pockets that are created as things fall, and that's where you're going to find, and that's what creates your void space. So to answer the question, if you're in the parking garage, let's face it, if earthquake comes and you're in the parking garage, most of you aren't going to be able to run and exit the parking garage. I probably wouldn't be able to run and exit the parking garage in an active earthquake. Your footing isn't going to be that solid. If things are going to be moving. Folks have mobility issues, so your best bet, if you're in the parking garage, get next to a pillar, because that is a reinforced concrete and steel pillar. And if there is some type of failure, you're going to have a more likelihood of having that void space created. You don't want to get under the car because the car is going to move. You could have, the fuel line break. You don't want to get covered in gas. As far as staying in bed, getting out of bed, your safest place, in my opinion, is...
And did you hear that? My opinion.
This is my opinion. This isn't a policy of you house. If you can safely get down next to your bed, again, you're going to have that opportunity for that void space to be created. If you can't get out of bed, then wait till it stops shaking and then, get out of bed. But get as small as you can and write it out. So
cover yourself.
And cover yourself with blanket, pillows, whatever you can do.
And your dog too.
And your dog, or your cat, or your goldfish, not the goldfish, they're on their own. They won't remember what happened anyway, so it's okay.
But I want to remind you, even though he has quoted, really, the triangle of life, that is a protocol that has not been accepted in Turkey, and that's where most of that gentleman's research was done. And their critique of that was it's too hard to explain to people and too hard to do. Most of the criticism, and yes, things are going to fall on you, if it's a slab of concrete, and he did observations in Mexico and in Iran, and the structure of the buildings were probably pretty poor. So the reason that the United States did not choose that approach is that for that very reason, the structures of the United States are probably better than in those countries, in my opinion. So once again, here's an example of people who have different opinions.
As far as food and water after an event, absolutely you need to be ready to be self-sustainable.
And look at your handout that you find in your cubby. It has all those listings. Go ahead.
You need to be self-sustainable for 3 days because earthquakes don't happen unless it's dark and you're sleeping really, really well. It's just a rule. So, look for, you're not going to have a lot of staff. Staff is going to have, their own worries as far as, securing their home environment and then making their way here. For some folks, that's going to be easy. For some folks like me, that's going to be a little more difficult because I live north. So, myself, it could take a day or two to get here.
When we do the shakeout in October, the scenario that I'm setting up is it's 2 in the morning and the earthquake happens. And the floor captains will be running this one, and the staff will be observing. They will not be intervening with it. So they are in the process also of putting together their own disaster plan of what does the staff do at what time. So we may be a little ahead of them to look at what we do in our apartment. They will then come and with their development, look at what will they do for us.
I can show. Jared, those of us who have a thing on our wall, which when I walk out into the living room at night, the light comes on. All right, are those good for an earthquake and for a while? How does that work?
Oh, the little flashlights?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
They
I don't know the length that they'll last, but they are designed so once the power is cut, they turn on so that you can find them. In anything like that, again, you're going to want to use it sparingly because you don't know how long the power is going to be out. So, but plan on that self-sustainability for 3 days. As far as for independent residents, it would be, you have to think of it as your own world. We provide a ton of stuff and everything, but in an emergency, you've got to be prepared to take care of yourself, and then
because you're not going to get to see what everybody has on their table, I'm going to show you this. This is an Amazon purchase. This is a rechargeable light bulb, and it's always in your light, so it's charging, and it does that. And with this adapter underneath it that's in the box, this is dynamite. And I showed this to all the floor captains, and they thought it was dynamite too. Where do I get one? So that's some of the things that you can find, unfortunately, at the tables as well.
And these. If you have one of those little power supplies, portable power supplies, I try to always keep mine charged because this is a flashlight. It's a communication device. It's very versatile, and most of us who have these things pretty much always know where they are. Right? Yeah, we run over time, thank you.
My turn. In closing, I would like the floor captains to please stand so people can recognize them, and I'm going to read this alphabetically. We have Alice, Amelia, Ann, Barb, Dan, Doug, Evelyn, who's at a wedding this weekend, Glenda, Joan, Langley, Masha, Mike, Pam, Pat and Pat C and Pat W, and Prue. They're the people you should applaud.
She won't stand up.
Yeah.